Podcast City.
Get on it.
Podcast City.
Get on it.
On it today, and ladies and gentlemen, this is Big Boy Radio. This is not for the faint of heart, okay? This is not for children. This is grown men and women and people who have formative minds. This show's for them, okay? Because we got a big problem in this country, okay? We are now the divided states and the divided people of America. We the people is nice on paper and sounds great in a song, okay? But right now, we're the furthest thing away from that, okay? I'm not going to say as bad as it's ever been because I wasn't there in Selma, Alabama, and I wasn't there when Mississippi was burning, and I wasn't there in Watts or places when cities were on fire. I don't know about that, okay? But in my lifetime, I think this is the worst that has become. And make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about this. We spend 50%, I believe, on military and defense in this country, okay? We spend that kind of money. But like I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm going to look that camera in the eye, we are much closer to rotting from within than we are of being overtaken by China and Russia, who can't even feed an army, never mind fight a transcontinental war. In reality, okay? We are much closer to killing ourselves and bringing this country down from within because of racism and divisiveness, okay, then we are more a threat of that, okay, and that is far more dangerous to our country and its soul and its prosperity and its being than any international threat that we can invent, without question. We are rotting from our core. And it is spreading like a disease. We are more divided than we've ever been. Socially, politically, all of it. We have a commander-in-chief whose post is like that. Okay? We're coming off the heels of the first black president, Barack Obama, who was wildly liked, as his wife is. I thought that was going to be the straw that broke the back. I thought there was that we had been to the top of the mountain and we were on our way and you know, we had gotten there. But instead, it divided us more. It stoked the subtleties of racism that lied in far too many of us. And it polarized them. Certainly. And here, you got Joe Biden, whose only thing he can rest on, who debated terribly, who campaigned terribly, okay, who has been underground and not heard from, okay? The reason why he is the Democrats' nominee is because he can pull black voters to vote. Okay? That is the only reason why Joe Biden is where he is. It's the Obama effect, and he still has a little bit. And that's not righteous either. You know? And today, when we have this discussion, I'm going to be the devil's advocate from time to time during this discussion. But I don't wear Joe Biden as a badge of honor, as somebody that's going to lead us and take it, because we need a leader more than ever now. Believe me. We have to settle old scores and pacify old differences if we're going to move ahead as a country. If not, we're going to rot from the cancer of racism and divisiveness from within. George Floyd gets killed and gets videoed. And white people who saw it were outraged. White people who were there and the millions of white people who saw it all over the world were outraged. As 4 cops of different races all also sat there and watched the man be brutally killed. There was no doubt about it. The cop was grinding his neck into the ground. And like Will Smith said, it's not the first time. Don't get it twisted. It's the first time we really caught it on video. Right? Well, because of the citizen reporter, because of the phone, and the ability. Will said he's not the first time and he's right, but this time it was caught. And now, George Floyd, not a perfect man, a sinner, somebody who's done some unconscionable things in his life, may change the world. Maybe this is going to be the tipping point. Okay? We have seen it. From Rodney King. We have seen it in Watts, Southern California. We have seen the protests in Patterson, New Jersey, and all over the country where Martin Luther King was dying. We saw what happened in South Central LA with Rodney King. We saw what happened in New York with Abner Louima, who was sodomized while in custody of the police. We have seen it with Trayvon Martin. We have seen it in Selma, Alabama, and we have seen it in Mississippi's burning. Why will the outcome be different because of George Floyd, Peter?
I think it didn't start with the George Floyd.
Sure.
It probably started the weeks before with the Bernard Arbery case.
Yeah.
You know, when he got shot.
Sure.
And when he got shot, you know, it lit the flame.
Sure. Now that's the kid jogging, right?
Yeah, the kid that was jogging. That lit the flame.
Sure.
And then when everybody saw the video of this happening, listen.
But listen to me, it took coronavirus off the front page of the news.
It sure did.
I mean, was the greatest threat to world economic security ever. And now then people are talking about race. People talking about George Floyd.
Yes.
You know, it was crazy. Keith, let's get back to you. Why is George Floyd different? Why do you think? Why is it different than Martin Luther King? Why is it different than Rodney King? Why is it different than Abner Louima or Trayvon Martin or the rest of the social justice struggles out there?
Because more than ever, we're learning. You can't do anything. There's somebody with a phone everywhere.
Sure.
And this cop is not the first one to get caught on a phone abusing somebody.
Yeah.
But you got more of it, of the act that he did on phone than you have with others.
Sure. You had voice. You had voice.
You have the guy.
You had the people watching.
You have a guy crying for his mother who had been dead for 2 years prior, which they say is one of the first things you do when you.
Yeah.
And you brought up Rodney King. I was 19 when that happened. The first time I had ever seen anything of that magnitude, and I thought back then, I'm like, is this finally? Here we are. 28 years later.
Sam Cooke was singing "A Change Is Going to Come" in 1963. Tommy Smith and Juan Carlos raised that hand. Muhammad Ali, Bill Russell, and Jim Brown said enough is enough.
Right.
Long before Colin Kaepernick took a knee. Okay? Why is this time going to be different? You're talking about big-time star power. You're talking about the Olympics at the gold medal. Those guys, Tommy Smith and Juan Carlos, thought they were going to get shot. Other guys are chickened out. Why is it going to be different this time, you think?
It's the day of social media.
Sure.
Social media has brought to the front, just like Will Smith said.
Yeah.
It's been happening all along. It's just being filmed more often.
Sure, yeah.
More often.
The citizen reporter.
And before we move on, and the thing you got to remember with Rodney King, that was back in 1991 when that happened.
Sure.
There was no phones back. That was tourists who just happened to be had a video camera with them. So if there weren't tourists around, that would have been ignored.
Sure. That wasn't the first time it happened with LAPD.
No, far from it. But that was the first time it was
not the last
filmed.
either.
Look at the phones. Look at the high definition on the phones now.
Yeah.
People can feel it.
Yeah.
When they would watch that video, they felt
it wasn't grainy like Rodney
No,
King.
they felt it.
They
Saw the sweat coming off this guy's forehead.
Yeah.
They saw the tears coming down.
They watched him die.
They watched him die.
And how pathetic is it that a procedure that is not taught in any police academy in the world with the knee on somebody, they actually have to, in training, now new officers have to be told they can't use that.
Well, they should know that because I went to 3 academies, 3 police academies, SWAT team, all that stuff, and nowhere is that taught. Nowhere
Nowhere is it taught, but it's sure being practiced. And now the fact that they have to be told that you can't do it.
You never ever see as soon as they're cuffed behind the back, and I think he was ankled. He was cuffed on the ankles also. Yeah. You have control.
Yeah,
that's control.
He no longer becomes a threat. A threat.
Yes.
So George Floyd is the spark plug in the engine that is driving these new protests. Much different than Selma, Alabama. Much different than Washington, D.C. At the Lincoln Memorial when Martin Luther King gave his great speech. Much different than that. Okay? We're seeing them more animated. We're seeing them more confrontational. We're seeing them more daring. You know, where when you saw the marches down south with Martin Luther King, who, by the way, preached nonviolence at all costs, which is a tough pill to swallow. You know, Malcolm X said by any means necessary. You know what I mean? I'm sure most African Americans would probably be in the middle of that. But you know, with that, with that being said, I'm seeing protesters that are charging the police, more like protests you would see in Europe with the unrest there. The protesters are more aggressive. The protesters are less, you know. When they were, I watched the movie Selma the other day, but they were marching hand in hand, getting whipped, and water cannons, and maced and beat. And they weren't even trying to do it. These protesters are angry and they're aggressive. Is that a good thing for this? Do you think that some of the protesters' behavior in the name of George Floyd in those protests, do you think it hurt the cause? It certainly stole some TV time from police reform and police brutality and George Floyd, for sure. What's your opinion on that?
I think some of the young adults that are doing this looting and rioting are just opportunists.
Yeah.
These are guys that are they're not there for the protest. They're not there for the peaceful protest. They're there to cause bedlam. That's what they are there for.
And what type of response should they get for that? Should the National Guard be there, because this is an issue? Should the National Guard do what they did in front of Washington D.C.? Should they be being tear gassed? I believe tear gas is outlawed throughout the country now, or world now, I believe. I mean, you see it all the time, but so it's supposedly on that list.
Still tear gassing. We're still being gassed. I mean, they were just being gassed over there in Washington D.C.
Yeah,
I know.
different.
But I believe it's like some type of
CS gas, which pretty much gives the same symptoms, but I guess it's less lethal.
You're talking about chemical weapons versus
and we're talking about the National Guard being activated against citizens, which has happened.
Well, the National Guard shouldn't be. I think it's even part of our law that we do not activate against our own people unless there's unrest that our police departments can't.
And then the definition of an unrest is, you know what I mean? Paul Revere and George Washington, Thomas Jefferson were unrest.
Honestly, Mike, you know something?
Yeah.
We should police ourselves. You know, there were probably thousands of people, and there were probably the
Yeah.
people that looted and rioted is
Let me
probably
ask you-
a small margin of it.
Now let me ask you a question, right? Let's get to sports. Like it's a team concept, right?
Right.
You are not going to let, if your team is strong and you have strong leaders, you're not going to let the bad apple come in and rule the bunch.
Nope.
Or fuck the team up.
Not at all.
Okay? Do the protesters and do the righteous protesters and the people who are sponsoring them, who are motivating them, do they have a responsibility to police the protester? Or is it like, hey, listen, what we do, big deal. You can repair a window at Staples, but we can't get a life back. And what we've done here today isn't close to the lifetime of injustice that police have done to them in their race. Like, I mean, like, where are we here? Do we have a responsibility to do that?
We do, and then we don't. But we can't. We go there. We go to these protests, or people go to these protests to do the right thing.
Yeah. How many percent are there?
I say a good 80% of those people were there for the right things.
I was going to say 70, but okay.
Yeah, good 80% were there for the right reason.
Okay. Are you buying that number, Keith?
Yeah, because I mean, you're not these protests. You're not getting, which shouldn't even be allowed under all these COVID rules. But whatever, you're getting thousands showing up. So it's not like like the one they had in Fall River or what back with.
But you're a
people.
constitutionalist, Keith, right? Aren't you, for the most part?
Yes.
Okay. So, but you can't cherry pick.
But here we go.
No, hold on. But you can't cherry pick. You know what I mean? Like the KKK are scumbags. We know it. But in this country, they can walk down Beverly Street if they get a parade permit.
And
we got to take the good with the bad.
Yes.
We cannot cherry pick. So we're kind of, because we're a country of so many freedoms, we're kind of stuck with this bullshit, aren't we?
Yeah, 99% of the time, I support all this. This is we're in a thing. We're still in the middle of a public health crisis, and and just about everywhere still have these caps on gathering and whatever. Your right to be a horse's ass ends when it endangers somebody else's safety. And like I said, these protests, the whole thing with them is they could stop these in the middle under public health.
Hey,
sure, but there are some things that need to be protested. Vietnam was, right?
Right.
But were we under a pandemic? I understand all of that, but we're under a pandemic. This is a public health crisis.
In 1961, we had some crazy flu running around when Woodstock happened, or 1960, whatever Woodstock was.
When Woodstock was happening, that was the same time the Civil Rights Act was happening.
Exactly.
And the people were marching in Selma and all those things.
Sure.
We had Woodstock, and we had people, marching for civil rights.
Is the violence necessary to make the type of point that they want to make?
It's not necessary, but I guess the reason why so many people are listening now is because of the looting and the rioting. I think if it was more peaceful, less people would even react to the protest the way they are.
Let me throw this at you, because I saw this happen a couple of times. You're the white guy who's Donald Trump's demographic, 45 to 54, and he's watching George Floyd, and he's like, man, I'm sick of seeing this shit. Enough is enough. What's going on? This is bullshit. Who was like really all the way thinking about reform and brutality and racial injustice and social justice. And he's totally consumed with watching this video and how other police are watching and all of that stuff. And you got him for a couple of weeks. And then the riot has happened. And then Antifa. And
I think the Antifa thing is just they haven't found any evidence that Antifa.
All right, let's just say the most aggressive amongst them.
Right.
Okay? Because I believe that both parties have dark operatives.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I think in Charlottesville, the right sent in those militant white supremacists to, get their point across.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So and I don't think it's anything sanctioned by the Democratic Party or by anything like that, but I do think they may do some good work. I mean, the Black Panthers did a lot for their communities. Okay? So I'm not full of them. I'm just throwing them out there, trying to keep this ship in the middle. Okay? And so you have that. At what now? That white guy. That's excuse me.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Mike. I really do.
I mean, wow, when with the riots and the looting, you start losing him again. Because I'm looking around, I'm looking at my friends, and I'm proud of them. I'm like, wow, man, this is really hitting them. This is some good stuff. But then you see the nonsense, and then you see it all, and then it's like they get lost in the trees again because of it. I think that the protesters, the rioters, did the legitimate protesters, okay, a terrible injustice by stealing their thunder and stealing their headlines. Now, I talk to people like Lamont Ferguson from Bedford and other friends of mine who have attended these protests, and they say that the overall majority of people are peaceful and doing the right thing.
Yeah, and most of the time, it's after the speakers speak, and most of the people are starting to go home to where these people start acting up. You know, and
a lot of it's done at nighttime too.
Yes.
After the protest,
are
break
done.
up.
Is violence necessary for them to get their command presence and get everybody's attention?
It's not necessary because we have the videotape. If you can't view that videotape and be outraged, then you don't have a heart.
Sure.
Simple as that. But like I said, I watch these videos. I constantly watch videos. I don't have nothing else to do because I'm retired.
Yeah.
There's just as many white rioters and looters as there are the blacks. Right. I mean, I think these young adults, young adults,
these young millennials have had enough.
Millennials are not
because
afraid of anything.
Because they grew up biracially.
Right.
Okay? They grew up in a much different time than we did. You know, it's a different time and place where words aren't acceptable with discriminative thoughts are called out more. There's much more light to it today with social media. They are much different. Let's talk about the blue line of police, which I think is the number one problem in police departments across the country. You see in every city there's scandals about lies on police reports, blah, blah, blah. And let me tell you something. Do they have a tough job? Yes. Would I want to do it? No, I would not. Do I think there should be some type of social work or teaching or coaching or mentoring requirement for a couple of years as part of your resume to become a police officer? I do, absolutely. They have to learn how to communicate with people of all kinds, colors, in situations to do their job most effectively. So I think that should be. Is it a thankless job? Yes. Are they under a lot of heat? Yes. But at the end of the day, you saw those 4 cops not interrupting that murder that they saw. And that's because of the blue line, where they don't want to expose their...
Right. And just like the rookie officer who was only on the job for 4 days.
Yeah, he's going to be
full-time.
Yeah.
Full-time.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's true. I worked in the job for 16 years. The chain of command is above all. And if somebody is your supervisor, it's either your job or you go against the grain.
Sure. And that's not comfortable.
It's no. And I tell you one thing.
So how do we change
when you're in that situation to where your life is on the line?
Yeah.
And you know,
and the guy bails you out.
And the guy bails you out.
Sure.
Or you think about this here.
Yeah,
think about this here. You go against the blue
you're
line.
You're gonna lie for your teammates, right?
Right. Yes.
As I would. There's a sacred code of the locker room.
Well, you think about that. Think about it. You're on a call. Sure. You're in a domestic. There's a shooting and everything.
Yeah.
And you call for backup. And all of a sudden...
What they did to Serpico.
Yes, sir.
But they take an oath, Peter.
They do take an oath.
And once you take an oath...
To protect and serve.
You have to understand from that second that you got to be above it all. That the oath you take is to the American people, black, white, brown, yellow, whatever they may be. When you take that oath, you got to put that jocularity and that, that blue line where it's okay to lie and distort and to manipulate and do multiple police reports and do multiple stuff to help your brother out. It's not a fraternity. It's not a locker room. It's bigger than that, Peter.
Right.
And they have to. Now, let me ask you a question. As being a black member of law enforcement for as long as you were, and I know that you're a cop first guy, okay? But I know that you have a strong sense of right and wrong.
Right.
Okay? Very strong. And you're also a minority and a person of color. How do you balance that blue line? And how do other police officers who you know and hang with, how does a person of color, do they walk lockstep with the thin blue line?
No,
the big blue line?
Not true. You walk a tightrope, pretty much.
Okay, yeah,
You're
so it's
walking
difficult then.
Walking a tightrope.
Okay.
Pretty much. Because if there was probably out of 200 something officers when I worked, there may have been eight minority officers.
Yeah.
So you're on the you're thin right there.
Yeah.
You're thin. So you have to pretty much stick together. Now if it comes down to somebody else's life versus my partner's life, it's going to be that other person. That's the other person's life. But if it comes down to right and wrong, most of the time people are going to do the right thing.
Let's go to the most simplest but most important. When it goes to paper, the police report. Is it all right to lie in police reports to protect your fellow cop? That's what the culture is, correct?
I've never lied on a report.
Okay.
I don't know what anybody else has done. I write the report.
Well, we saw the report from Minneapolis.
But this is God's honest truth.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you. When you're writing a report, you hand that to your supervisor.
Sure.
And it may be rewritten.
Yeah.
Or corrected.
That's my problem. Why are there multiple police reports?
Corrected.
The police report should come from the offices that were there. Why does it have to be proofread and edited? That's not the thing. You take an oath that every report you fill out is going to be the truth.
It is.
Why I've had cases where there's been 4 or 5 different reports.
Well,
that's crazy.
And that's where the chief is. That's where it comes down to your supervisors and the chief's responsibility. If you got a chief that's forging, or supervisors that are putting in false reports, that you got a problem within the department.
Why should a supervisor be allowed to change the original copy of the police report? He wasn't there.
I don't know why some people do it. I think it's more or less to try to get their people. People out of trouble.
Sure, but that's not right.
Just about every job application says, I sign this under the penalty of perjury. How can a police report be, yeah.
I've seen police reports over the years that don't reflect what really happened. That's all I can tell you.
I could say a million things right now, but I will not. I promise to God, as difficult as it is. How big of a problem is the blue line, Keith?
I know about 30, 40 cops in about a dozen communities throughout the area. Sure. And every single one of them all tell me, whenever something like this happens, this is, we would never stand for that. Yeah. I would never. But then when the shit hits the fan like it is now, you ask them the same question, and they don't want to comment anymore. Right, because... Right, it's one of what's said off the record about I wouldn't put up with that becomes different once it goes on the record.
And I'm going to tell you one thing. What's said amongst my fellow brothers and stuff, police officers, are different said to amongst a total white crowd.
Sure.
Like, it's different.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
So there are these black police officer organizations in these big cities, and some of these prominents, and you said in the corrections, is it? You
I was in corrections.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in corrections, you guys have like a unified black people of color?
No, we didn't have anything like that. We never had.
Did you guys stick together?
No. Everybody was. We had our same union.
Yeah.
It was all represented.
Sure.
We were like being on a battlefield.
Did you ever see any police officers argue about a prisoner being treated unfairly?
Yeah, we have. We have. Yes.
So that's the professionalism, right?
It didn't matter whether he was white or black or whatever it was. It just was what's right and what's wrong. But it's not up to us to decide.
Let me ask you a question. They say money rules the world, right? People with money have far more advantages than people who don't. Is this issue with police and social justice strictly about people of color, or should it be more about people's social economic levels? One of the best talk shows I ever had, and I almost got in trouble for this. My producer, my program director was shaking in his boots until I saved it. When I said that not only are police, different with minorities, try to be, and I think me and you have had this conversation, try to be a young adult with 3 guys in the car, okay? And try getting pulled over in Tiverton or Somerset or Mattapoisett or Marion and tell them that you're from Fall River in New Bedford.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? It's the same thing.
Right.
But I should not say the same thing because I am not black. Okay? So excuse me for that. It sounds very, very similar to the stuff that you hear from people of color when they're getting pulled over by the police. I have been pulled over with a gun to my head 4 or 5 times. Okay? Laid out on the sidewalk. And it's never been in an urban environment. Fall River, New Bedford, where's the guns? Where's the drugs? What are you doing here? You're looking to steal something? You're looking to fight? You know what I mean? So, if we can agree to that, would you agree with that, Keith, as well?
Yeah, towns, cops in the smaller towns, young kids, they police young kids.
I don't think it's just. I'm not talking about young kids. I'm talking about getting that ID and knowing that you're from Fall River.
I got a story.
Well, or New Bedford.
Yeah,
regardless of color.
When they see where you're from, yeah.
I got a story.
What?
I went to South Beach.
Sure.
Over there in Little Compton.
Uh-huh.
Me and a friend of mine and my wife.
Mm-hmm.
My wife is Portuguese. She's from the city, born and raised. We were going fishing.
Yeah.
I was in the white Mitsubishi I used to have, SUV. We went to South Beach. I wasn't breaking any laws.
Yeah.
We fished. A police officer from Little Compton pulled in, and sat there. Yeah. When we left, he followed us. He pulled me over. I wasn't breaking the law. I wasn't breaking the speed limit or anything. Pulled me over and asked me, "What am I doing here?" He saw I was fishing.
Sure. Now, Peter, knowing you didn't handle that so well. You probably did. You come at him intelligently and aggressively?
I came at him intelligently and not aggressively. Matter of fact, the gentleman that was sitting beside me, his name was, we called him Biggie and stuff because he's a big guy. Yeah. He was a lieutenant on upstate at the House of Corrections.
Sure.
And he's a big black guy.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I said, listen, what are we being stopped for? And he says, you were going a little over the speed limit. The speed limit is 35. You were going 37.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And he asked us for a license and registration. I says, I'm a sheriff's deputy, sure. and he's an officer also. And he took our IDs and went to his car. Made us sit there for at least a half hour. Well, my wife is in the back seat, and they do this. I mean, it's just
with impunity, Peter.
Right.
With impunity.
Right.
The cops know who all the bad ones are most of the time. Okay? But again, this topic of the conversation has been about that blue line, right?
Exactly.
I think it needs to be changed. Is it possible to make that change?
You need all it takes is the old expression. It takes one. You need one good cop to stand up and say enough is enough.
Yeah, but we've had that.
Mike, over my years, I can really say 90% of the people that I've worked with, officers, at least 90% were good guys.
Really, that many?
Legitimately.
I don't think 90% of teachers, engineers, professors are good guys. And that's a very high number, Pete.
The people that I've worked with, now I'm not saying that.
Yeah, 90% is a high number.
I'm not saying that there weren't some racists that I worked with, and some guys that I worked with were legitimately my friends, good friends of mine, until I found out that they were racist.
Sure. I'm sure the police, if they had to do over in Minneapolis and they realized the type of backlash that they got, and they cause for every police officer every police department in this country are dealing with a lot of grief right now because of how George Floyd was treated. Now, let's talk about the quality of life on the job. If you have a rogue cop or a rogue CO who is doing stuff he shouldn't be doing and treating people differently and being aggressive and going after certain people, doesn't that make everybody's job more difficult?
It does.
Because maybe the guy's not going to crack on the guy who's doing it to him. Maybe he's going to lose his shit on the next CO or the next cop, right? Is there any internal pressure to say, hey, man, get it right because you're making my job worse?
Listen, I've had guys to where I was at roll call and I knew I was relieving this officer.
Yeah.
And he's a problem.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, this is going to be a show. I
Yeah,
don't know if you can say it on the radio, right?
shit show,
but this is going to be a shit show because I'm going to go in there. But as soon as I got on the block, I mean, you can hear it down the hallway.
Yeah.
Screaming, hollering, bang, 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 bang. As soon as I got on the block, because I treated people like
of course.
I would want them to treat my brother or my friend or friend. Yeah. I got on the block and everybody says yes.
And everybody says, they're prisoners, they're inmates, fuck them anyway. Now, you say that until it's your brother or your friend or your girlfriend or your neighbor or your teammate. Yeah.
I said that to many of corrections officers when I was trying to explain to them. You're doing what you're doing. You would never do to your brother, or you would never want your sister or brother to be treated that way.
Sure. I think police reform, like I said, should start with them having 2 years of mandatory teaching and social work or something like that. And then I think it starts from the bottom level. I don't think this is a top-down thing. I think we have police reports shouldn't be subject to change, okay, from people who weren't there. You know what I mean? It should start there because you know what happens? You tell 100 little lies and then you're not so afraid to tell a big one. You know what I mean? And that's what happens.
Well, you got in Minneapolis, right?
Did you read that police report that they wrote? That was a joke.
The people that are policing the police are working with the police. So how could you police the police if you're working lockstep with the police? The DA's office that was overseeing the police officers works with them every day, all day when they go to court. So how are you going to police the police? You need an outside entity to police the police.
Sure.
There's no way that you can do it any other way. That's like me and you friends and stuff. And
there are police boards throughout communities, but they're just like poster boards. They're meaningless. They have no real power. Yeah, certainly. How much does the media have to do with race dividing us?
Well, it's putting a spotlight on racism.
Sure.
I mean,
is it driving us to let me ask you a question. Let's say one camera has 100 hours of a 3-day protest, or 50 hours of a 2-day protest of a protest, right? If only 1.5 hours or 2 hours of that 50 is violence and looting, why is it if 2% of the footage if 5% of the footage that you have, right? Why is it 80% of what we're seeing on TV?
Ratings.
So they
Ratings.
Talk to me, Keith.
Bingo. That's just what I was going to say. The exact same thing. We live in an era now, like we talked about Walter Cronkite the other night. That's why you have so many different news stations, and so many of them. Some lean left, some lean to the right, and it's all about ratings. The Sunday morning shows, it's all about the moderators are afraid to be too rough on somebody.
We're
because
divided about a flag in this country. We're divided by politics. We're divided by the news channel that we watch. We're divided by color. We're divided by culture. We're divided by race. We're divided by too many fucking things in this country. At the end of the day, we got to find a way to take the good and the bad and push through and find some type of balance here. Because I'm going to tell you something. As fucked up as this country is, go somewhere else.
Right. I never understood. The thing I never understood is, you can put on that uniform, and you can go over there in Iraq, Afghanistan, and fight for the United States, hand in hand, arm in arm.
Sure.
But you come back to the United States, and it changes. Yeah. How come it changed?
Because it's systematic. It's institutionalized.
Right, and that's the shame about it. Sure. That's the
so
shame
what's the answer?
America.
We have a black president. Is reparations the answer? I don't like affirmative action. I don't think Barack Obama's kids should be able to get into Harvard because they're black, because they grew up privileged. Oh, 1 second. Like, I think that affirmative action, I think there was a place for it. I think that place should now be more about your socioeconomic levels. At the end of the day, the poor kid growing up in a Flint, whose mother's an addict, whose father left, whose brother's in jail, okay, has the same road, or almost the same road as that Cape Verdean kid from Montes Park whose brother's in jail and whose father's dead and his mother is, absent. I think it should be based on that. I don't think black people of privilege should, get 5 points on the fire department or whatever they do or whatever type of affirmative action. Listen, and I'm a liberal Democrat. I think that divides us. The famous ad about Jesse Helms and Harvey Gantt, the election that Michael Jordan said, I'm not getting involved because Republicans buy sneakers too. Jesse Helms, one of the most racist U.S. senators that we've ever had, a bad guy to his bone. What one of my election was, the white guy, the black guy getting the job with the application and the white guy crimpling it up and throw it in the basket. I think affirmative action divides us. Okay? I think it should be less about color and more about where you grew up and the socioeconomic levels. If you're in an underperforming school district and you rate a 50, and the black and the minority or the people of color with more color in their high school, and they rate a 52, both schools are underperforming. With people of color and without. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I just kind of agree, but
disagree.
The reason why
I got to play devil's advocate here. You know what I mean? So
the reason why is because affirmative action was brought about because there was a reason.
Absolutely,
there was an absolute reason why.
Peter,
people were not getting into these these schools.
Sure.
White
people's affirmative action is unions and legacies and all that other stuff.
Right.
And fraternities and all of that. I know that. I'm saying that I supported affirmative action up until Obama got elected, and then I said, hey, wait a minute. I don't know if it should be about color anymore. I think it should be based more about need.
I don't think that they as far as I know, they don't use affirmative action anymore.
Sure.
I don't know if they do any in the schools anymore, but I haven't seen it lately.
Do you get points on the civil service test?
No.
Not anymore?
No, I've never got.
When have they eliminated that?
They eliminated it a while ago. I got on the department in 2003. Sure. There was no affirmative action.
But you hear police...
Military.
Yeah.
Military. If you served in military, you get an extra 3 points.
Course,
you get 3 points.
But you hear all the time that we need diversification in our police department. We need diversification with our municipal leaguers. We need Spanish-speaking teachers at Durfee. You know what I mean? That and they're gonna, whether it says it in the book or not, they're gonna get preference.
Well, there's a problem when you have your whole community is 80% black and your police department is 90% white.
Yes,
it should reflect your community
without question. Should there be mandatory quotas for that?
I don't know if there should be mandatory quotas, but I do know when they did a study on all the high schools that were in the city that some of the high schools that had predominantly minorities in the school were getting older scholastic books from and they were going up.
Brown versus the Board of Education, made a sequel, but it was a long time before we
Right,
were.
right.
You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying. Like Sam Cooke is singing this stuff in 1963. A change is going to come, and he had people believing. He had Jewish people and white people and Irish people holding hands. Do you know that 35% of the protesters in Selma were white?
Yes.
Yes,
absolutely.
You know, in Mississippi Burning, one of the most famous racially charged movies in history, Academy Award-winning film, unbelievable. What the courageous how the FBI was against the Ku Klux Klan. People forget that 2 of those people killed were Jewish.
Yes, and that's happening today.
Yeah.
You look at the crowds in these protests. It to me it looks half and half. It don't look like it's totally black to me. It's
Yeah.
Okay. Repeat the year you said Brown versus the Board of Education.
I'm not sure.
I thought
I
you
said
said
Sam Cooke was 63.
Okay, because in 1870, when the 15th Amendment passed, which gave unalienable rights to all people born on U.S. soil, regardless of race.
Sure.
And up until 1910, they were legally using poll taxes and literary tests.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until 1964, which might coincide.
Change doesn't come unless it's enforced from the bottom to the top. Voting rights, okay, voting rights. So we're gonna have 4 polling booths at one place and make people wait in line. So it has to be real change, you know.
And it's just not. It's really just not a minority issue or a black and white issue. It's poverty issue. It's.
But there is hope here because we elected a black president, isn't it?
Yes, I mean we did elect a black president.
But then we followed it up by electing someone who was literally endorsed by the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh, America, you drive me crazy.
We went on 2 different spectrums.
Sure.
There wasn't a happy medium.
We got Barack Obama being president. We got his wife being probably one of the most popular people in the world today. We got Oprah Winfrey, who was once the most powerful and most popular woman in the world. You got Jay-Z, Puffy, and Dre that are all billionaires, entrepreneurs. Okay? You have Robert Johnson from BET and the Bobcats. You got Magic Johnson, who's a conglomerate. But the numbers in the NFL and Major League Baseball don't really add up when it comes to stuff.
70% of the NFL, the players are black. You have 3 head coaches, 3 black head coaches: Mike Tomlin, Brian Flores, and Anthony Lynn.
Sure.
In the NBA, 75% of the players are black. You have 8 head coaches. So that's 9% of the NFL head coaches are black for a sport, 70% black. And the NBA, a little better, 25% for a sport that's 75%. And in baseball, we're not going to turn this into a sports thing. When Jackie Robinson retired in 1956,
this makes me sick.
6.7% was of the league were black. Here we are as of 2019, we're just under 8%. We are up 1.2% since 1956.
That is a big smack in the face.
That is.
For Jackie Robinson. Think about that, man. Think about that. Shame on you, Major League Baseball, for letting that happen. You get the data. Shame on them. Shame on them. That's a smack in the face. Everybody wants to put on a big show and put Jackie Robinson's number and retire. Okay? Okay, everybody wants to do a big show. Give me change. Don't give me a fucking plaque on the wall. Okay? Don't give me a statue with a brisket shit on it. Okay? You want to honor my legacy? You really want to honor Jackie Robinson's legacy? Don't retire the number. Unretire the number and give it to the best African-American prospect in the farm system. Okay? Go about it that way. Honor his legacy by drafting more young black kids, by putting money into playgrounds in Compton, in Dade County, in West Texas, in Philadelphia, in Paterson, New Jersey, in Camden, in Brockton, and New Bedford, and places of color everywhere. Invest in them.
Absolutely.
Walk around Jackie Robinson this, Jackie Robinson that, Jackie Robinson this, and yet we got a 1% increase in African American players. And how long, Keith?
Jackie Robinson retired in 1956.
Okay.
64 years.
Okay.
And wasn't Boston?
That's some bullshit. Shame on you, Major League Baseball.
And wasn't Boston the last team to get an African American?
Yeah.
And
the very last.
And how ironic, because you mentioned that. In a sport that I don't even know what the numbers are where they're black. The the NHL, the first black player, came out of Boston, and yet their
Right.
baseball team, Willie O'Ree.
Unbelievable.
Willie O'Ree played hockey in Boston before
And Hall of Famer.
whoever it was, who I don't even know who the first Pumpsy Green did for the Boston Red Sox.
Listen to me. All those names you guys just talked about, nobody will ever remember. Okay? Jackie Robinson was a national icon. Jackie Robinson, there's 10 different movies about him. Jackie Robinson is one of the first books you read as an elementary school student in the school library. For Major League Baseball to let his memory get disgraced like they have and allow that number, that there's been 1% increase in African Americans since Jackie Robinson has retired, okay, that is a crime. And that is a smack in the face, okay? And all these retired numbers and all these days and all this big show, those big corporate show about Jackie Robinson, okay? If I was related to Jackie Robinson, I'd be like, fuck you, that's enough of this. You want to honor my family's name and an icon of my family's name, then do it the right way. Let's get the numbers up. Let's see where the money's going. These franchises are worth billions of dollars and hundreds of millions of dollars. Okay, let's see it invested in black neighborhoods. Let's see it invested in black schools. Let's make sure that every high school that is predominantly African American has a fully funded baseball team. Okay, that is how you show, okay, your respect for Jackie Robinson. Not on some bullshit day or some bullshit number being retired and it sits there and half the people in the place don't know what it is. Okay? It's a smack in the face to Jackie Robinson is what it is. And that's some real stuff. And if you don't like it, I don't give a fuck. But that's serious. That is indicative. Why don't you tell me that stat before we started this show? Because that stat blows me away. That there is only 1% growth in African American baseball players since Jackie Robinson. That is crazy to me.
It is. It's not that African Americans don't play baseball, because they do. There's a lot of them. Yeah. I mean, you guys played here in Fall River.
I played with my best friend Lamar Stevens is black, and we connected through Little League. But let me talk to you about something, right? And I hate to do Jackie Robinson's name like this, but I have this in my notes. Tiger Woods, for all of his success as a person of color, right, and being half black, hasn't translated to any young, dynamic black golfers, right? Hold on. But yet Venus Williams, her outstanding contributions on the tennis court has produced all of the great young female tennis players in the country now. Most of them are African American. Again, are we talking about money shutting African Americans out of country clubs and playing golf? Because you have to have money to play golf, right?
You have to have big money to play golf.
Okay.
A round of golf, just a round of golf, is for any day, or even on a cheap course,
sure,
$50, $50. You're talking about $50. I mean, even on a cheap course.
So again, the people from lower socioeconomic places, they're not going to produce golfers.
No, and when I was in high school, way back in the 20s, I'm just kidding. But when way back, we had a golf team. You could play on high school golf teams, but now they've gotten rid of like a lot of the sports that don't bring in big money or sell tickets and things like golf and wrestling and lacrosse and stuff like that.
But how about a foundation sponsor the Tiger Woods special, where young people of color can play it on public courses on Tuesdays for free between a certain time and some other thing, or some buy one get one free type package or something like that. How come with all the money that Nike's making, with all the money that's being generated, okay?
Titleist is right here. I mean, they can do that in New Bedford if they wanted to.
Listen, Tiger Woods, right, brings millions and millions and millions more viewers when he's involved.
Absolutely.
Okay? But how come he's not bringing the young golfers like Serena Williams did? Serena Williams played on a public court in Compton. And legend has it that his father and the gangbangers from that neighborhood patrolled the park while the Williams sisters were playing because they knew they were going to be special.
Honestly, Mike, I think it's a more of an economical reason why. Because it's very expensive.
Can we?
Golf clubs.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you're right. And hockey too.
Yep, it's very expensive.
Should part of the dialogue not just be about people of color for social justice? It needs to be a little bit more about the social and economic type of situation that you're from.
Absolutely.
I believe that to be. Keith?
Yeah, I think the poor white kids should have the same, and poor minorities should have the same. They're the same.
Okay.
So
well, they're not. They're not.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain life
because it's crazy in this world. There will. Let's say if you took the whole subclass of poor white kids, poor brown kids, poor Asian kids, poor Muslim kids, or poor white kids, the poorest of the poor will be discriminated against by the people who have been discriminated against.
Right.
That's the Stanford study, I believe, right?
Right.
Whatever that study is.
Yes, Stanford study.
Where they made people wear different shirts and different colors.
Oh, and that's prevalent in Fall River. You have people living a paycheck away from being on the street who get their rocks off talking shit about somebody who's on public assistance. So.
Is this a bridge too far for us? Can we handle this problem? Or are we just going to keep dealing with flare-ups like this? Is there going to be real change?
I think change is here. I really do. In my 50, I'll be 55 years old on Sunday. In my 55 years, I've never seen anything like this. I've never felt. I mean, you're saying that we're going to be, just like a Civil War type stuff. I'm saying
that potentially where the biggest threat to our country is within. Is the hatred and the divisiveness within this country. It's a much bigger threat to our sovereignty than Russia and China is.
Self-implosion.
Or North Korea.
Self-implosion absolutely is.
And I think that because of the people that we are, and because of our younger kids coming up and taking over, pretty much, the old South is going to be gone. You know, the people that used to live in the old South.
I don't know about that, Peter. I was down there, man. I listen.
But
they had me believing in the Confederate flag for half a second because they said it was their culture and they were raised on it, and that their grandfathers fought for to be free, for slaves to be free. But when they saw their brothers dying in the Civil War, it was a difference.
Honestly, they were traitors. They were treasonous. They were treasonous.
But so was Paul Revere. And Paul Revere was called a treasonous by King George, and so was George Washington and the rest of them.
Right. But we had established a country here.
Muhammad Ali and Bill Clinton and them were called treasonous for not going to the war.
Our president didn't go to the war.
No kidding. And he's calling Colin Powell.
Yeah. Now, another guy that you were talking about earlier, you was talking about these people that are in the limelight. General Mattis. General Mattis just came out recently against, oppression and using the military and
that's uncommon. And that's uncommon for the position he had, Secretary of Defense.
Yes,
it's very uncommon.
And we have the president and the military going at it like this, and the Congress. And let me flip the script for you too, because I got to try to keep this with some type of balance here.
Right.
Watching Schumer and Nancy Pelosi mean mug with the African scarf sign made me sick. Because you know what? As soon as they get out of the cameras, they're ripping that thing off.
But you know something?
What?
It made me feel different.
Really? Tell me why.
See, from your eyes, as you see something different. From me, I seen what our nation should be.
But did you like their pose mean mugging? Did you like how
they were kneeling? No.
I had no problem with the kneeling one, but they took one.
But you know something?
They took one on the steps, and Schumer's like, no, they were mean mugging, for sure.
But different media outlets take pictures. I mean, you could have 1,000 pictures.
No, I love.
You're going to put the worst picture.
I love the kneeling one, but I don't think people should be posturing like that.
Right. I just think these people are really genuine.
Yeah.
Genuine.
I hope so.
Come on.
I hope so.
Schumer's a rich person. Pelosi, they're rich people. They're always going to be rich. They don't have to do what they're doing. You know what I mean?
But there is a part of their party, what people like to call the radical fringe of the Democratic left, that are putting serious pressure on them. They're winning elections. They're putting pressure on the old guard to get with it.
Could I ask you a question?
Sure.
And since we talked about Joe Biden earlier, who would be his running mate? He said he's going to pick a woman. Who should his running mate be?
I think she'll be a woman of color.
Kamala Harris?
I like Kamala Harris, but she's a former prosecutor, and the African American community does not like her.
Yeah, but
once you have polls, did you ever watch The People versus OJ?
No.
You ever watch it?
Never watched it.
I didn't watch it because I seen the original. I was here.
Well, it was amazing television. John Travolta was in it, all kinds of big time actors, and Marsha Clark couldn't, because she had a history of treating black people well in court, but black women did not like her. Okay, and once you get to a certain percentage of numbers, you can't turn it around. Right? And Kamala Harris, because she was a federal prosecutor, because she was stringent with the Rockefeller drug laws, before the draconian prison sentences, the black community does not want to warm up to her. And the black community is the only reason why Joe Biden is the nominee of the president, because the Democrats can't win without it. And that's the end of the day. And there's more talented people left behind. But this is the process now. This is instead of getting 51% of the pie, it's like, let me get 4 slices of the pie. Let me marry the LGBTQ. Let me marry the leftist fringe. Let me marry some minorities. Let me get enough Spanish-speaking people. Let me get college-educated women. Let me do this and put it together. That's how it works, Jack. I've been in the room. This is Black and White and What's Right, episode number 1. We gave it the best we can. I think we did a great job. We'll be back for episode number 2. My man Peter Sylvia in here right there, good man, and my man Keith Mello, and of course Milton on the Wheels of Steel. We are out. Peace.
Podcast City.
Get on it.